A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on Akashvani. This is Saira Mujtaba, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India and Serbia agreed to set a target of bilateral trade of €1 billion by the end of the decade. President Draupadi Murmu concludes her two-nation tour to Suriname and Serbia. Australia announces to introduce a national ban on Nazi symbols in the country. Former US President Donald Trump indicted on federal criminal charges for retaining classified documents. Sudan's warring sides agreed to a nationwide ceasefire for 24 hours starting early on Saturday. European Union ministers agree on a deal to overhaul the bloc's asylum procedures. And India finishes on top at the International Shooting Sport Federation Junior World Cup at Seoul in Germany. And now the news in detail. President Draupadi Murmu concluded her two-nation tour to Suriname and Serbia on Friday. She was seen off by Prime Minister of Serbia, Ana Brnabić, at the Nikola Tesla Airport. During her visit to Serbia, President Murmu and her Serbian counterpart, Aleksandar Vučić, agreed to set a target of bilateral trade of €1 billion by the end of the decade. This is a significant jump from the present €320 million. President Murmu highlighted that India is on the way to becoming the third largest economy of the world before the end of this decade.
इस दशक के समाप्त होने के पहले भारत दुनिया की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनने की राह पर है। पूरे देश में नई इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का निर्माण तेजी से किया जा रहा है। भारत अपनी स्वतंत्रता के शताब्दी वर्ष 2047 तक एक विकसित देश बनने की अपनी आकांक्षा को लेकर पूरी आत्मविश्वास के साथ आगे बढ़ रहा है।
President Murmu reached Serbia on Wednesday on the second leg of her tour from Suriname. High-level business delegations of both the countries also met during the visit, and several initiatives were discussed to enhance bilateral trade between the two countries. Our correspondent reports the major highlights of President Murmu's visit to Serbia.
As President Murmu arrived in Belgrade, she was received warmly by her Serbian counterpart Aleksandar Vučić at the Nikola Tesla Airport. During the visit, restricted and delegation-level talks were held between the two nations. The areas of potential cooperation, especially in trade and investment, science and technology, digital technologies, and people-to-people contacts, were pondered upon. Mr. Vučić promised simplification of the issue of visas to Indians and initiation of direct flights between the two nations, promote tourism, and have greater business engagement. A community reception for the Indian community and Friends of India in Serbia was hosted by President Murmu during the visit. The President also paid floral tributes to the bust of Mahatma Gandhi and laid a wreath at the monument of the unknown heroes at Mount Avla. For Akashvani News from Belgrade, Serbia, Himani Rana.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar raised the issue of Canada allowing the celebration of assassination of former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. He was briefing media in New Delhi last evening. Dr. Jaishankar remarked that the incident was not an isolated one and points to an increasing space given to separatists in Canada. Responding to a media query on the fate of nearly 700 Indian students who are facing potential deportation by the Canadian government, Dr. Jaishankar termed it as an unfair thing on the part of the Canadian authorities. And now in today's Hotspot section, we bring you a commentary on India-Namibia ties set for growth.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar was on an official visit to Namibia from 4th to 6th June 2023. This was the first visit by an External Affairs Minister of India to the Republic of Namibia. During the visit, Dr. Jaishankar called on the President of Namibia, Mr. Hage Geingob, and also co-chaired the Joint Commission meeting with the Namibian Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, Ms. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. Dr. Jaishankar observed that the future of our partnership is built on the firm foundation of the immense goodwill arising from the shared struggle for freedom. In the last 3 decades, this has taken the form of a growing development partnership, stronger capacity building, expanded trade and initial investments. A prominent example is that of the India-Namibia Center of Excellence in Information Technology, INCEIT. Indo-Namibian cooperation has also been expressed in domains ranging from health, education and electrification. Now the objective is to take this to a much higher level. During the visit of Dr. Jaishankar, both India and Namibia agreed on closer cooperation in the field of energy, including oil and gas, green hydrogen and solar. Today, Indian companies have established themselves at a global level and emerged as major investors, knowledge partners, technology providers and business collaborators for clients worldwide. India is keen on infrastructure development, especially in railways, roads, ports, electricity transmission and water usage in Namibia. This will encourage the emergence of new partnerships between the countries in these areas, said the External Affairs Minister. In Africa, India has already delivered significant projects in these domains. The two sides also discussed food security and the prospects for expanding millet production. 2023 is the UN International Year of Millets. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has personally led the mission to increase the production and consumption of millets worldwide. This can become a new focus area between us. Trade and investment between the two countries have shown encouraging trends but can grow much further and much faster. Both sides agreed to promote Namibia as an investment destination in India. Indian industry representatives also take pride in imparting skills to their Namibian partners. This is particularly so with respect to the diamond industry. India-Namibia collaboration in wildlife relocation and conservation is also very significant. The reintroduction of cheetahs in India that were given by Namibia is truly a milestone, creating the basis for other initiatives. India hoped that Namibia would join the creation of the Big Cat Alliance. Such cooperation can have a major impact on the promotion of ecotourism. One of India's major achievements in recent years has been the digital delivery of public goods. India has made significant advances in fintech. Cooperation in the fintech sector holds real benefits for Namibia. There have been discussions pertaining to India's UPI platform. Namibia's history of capacity building and training exchanges needs to be upgraded. New Delhi is prepared to offer customized courses in areas of specific interest to Namibia. Both foreign ministers agreed on taking the Entrepreneurial Development Center proposal forward and working together to advance Namibia's diplomatic academy. On the health front, India would be gifting the Babatron cancer radiotherapy machine to Namibia. On defense, New Delhi has confirmed the continuance of the training team, which is rendering valuable service. India is now an exporter of defense products and services. India has also agreed to provide forensic equipment for use by the Namibian authorities. The External Affairs Minister also addressed the Indian diaspora based in Namibia, besides meeting with the Indian diamond business community. He also formally inaugurated the India-Namibia Center of Excellence in Information Technology in Windhoek in the presence of the Namibian Deputy Prime Minister and Namibian Minister of Higher Education, Ita Kanji Murangi. The India-Namibia Joint Commission meeting seemed to be quite successful. It would also further energize the strong cooperation both sides have on regional and global forums, including the United Nations and Commonwealth. The shared goal of both countries is to ensure that the India-Namibia partnership realizes its full potential.
This is Akashvani giving you the world news. Welcome back. Australia has announced it will introduce a national ban on Nazi symbols in an effort to crack down on far-right groups. Public displays of SS symbols will be punishable by up to a year in prison. The move comes amid a resurgence in far-right activity. In March, a group of neo-Nazis appeared at a rally in Melbourne, hosted by Kelly J. Keen Minshall, who is known for her opposition to transgender rights, and performed Nazi salutes on the steps of the Victorian Parliament. Announcing the new legislation, Attorney General Mark Dreyfus said, "There is no place in Australia for symbols that glorify the horrors of the Holocaust." Australia will no longer allow people to profit from the display and sale of items which celebrate Nazis, he added. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has been indicted on 7 federal criminal charges for retaining hundreds of classified government documents. An indictment is a formal accusation that a person has committed a crime. It is a document that is issued by a grand jury, which is a group of people who are tasked with deciding whether or not there is enough evidence to charge someone with a crime. The charges include making false statements after leaving the White House. The federal investigation is looking at Mr. Trump's handling of sensitive government documents after he left the White House. In the indictment, it is alleged that Mr. Trump, while still in office, took classified documents from the White House and stored them at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. The indictment also alleged that Mr. Trump obstructed justice by trying to interfere with the investigation into his actions. Sudan's warring sides have agreed to a nationwide ceasefire for 24 hours starting early on Saturday, mediators Saudi Arabia and the United States have announced. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry said in a Twitter post on Friday that the ceasefire will begin at 6 a.m. local time. The agreement marks the latest in several failed attempts to stop weeks of fighting between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces or RSF paramilitary group. The ministry statement said the two sides agreed to refrain from seeking military advantage during the 24-hour period, as well as from prohibited movements, attacks, use of aircraft or drones, aerial bombardment, artillery strikes, reinforcement of positions, and resupply of forces. They also agreed to allow the unimpeded movement and delivery of humanitarian assistance throughout the country, it added. The Sudanese government has declared the UN envoy to the country, Volker Perthes, to be persona non grata, meaning it no longer recognizes his position in Sudan. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement that the government of the Republic of Sudan has notified the Secretary General of the UN that it has declared Mr. Volker Perthes persona non grata. According to the UN mission's Twitter feed, Mr. Perthes was in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia on Thursday for a series of diplomatic talks. The head of the Sudanese Armed Forces and Sudan's de facto leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, recently accused Mr. Perthes of igniting the country's conflict. After the start of the conflict between the army and its paramilitary rival, the RSF, the UN mission in Sudan had been targeted by protests denouncing alleged foreign interference. European Union ministers have agreed on a deal to overhaul the bloc's asylum procedures after 12 hours of negotiations to obtain the go-ahead from frontline members, Italy and Greece. Home Affairs ministers from the 27-member bloc reached an agreement on Thursday, which aims to end years of division dating back to 2015 when more than 1 million people, most of whom were fleeing war in Syria, reached the EU. EU's Home Affairs Commissioner Johansson said this is a great achievement showing that it's possible to work together on migration. The new Asylum and Migration Management Regulation is set to replace the current Dublin regulation and change how asylum seekers are processed at the EU's borders and how they are relocated across Europe. A special court in Mumbai sentenced two Bangladesh nationals to 10 years of rigorous imprisonment in the Thane fake currency case on Thursday. The accused have also been fined 10,000 rupees each. The accused have been identified as Abdullah Sheikhdar and Najmul Hassan, both residents of Khulna in Bangladesh. High-quality counterfeit currency notes of face value of 4,08,000 rupees were being circulated in Maharashtra after being procured from Bangladesh in the case. Thane City Police registered the case in 2015 on the basis of specific intelligence shared by the Anti-Narcotic Cell of the City Crime Branch. CEO of OpenAI Sam Altman met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi yesterday. Replying to a tweet by Sam Altman, the Prime Minister said, "The potential of artificial intelligence in enhancing the country's technology ecosystem is indeed vast, especially among the youth in particular." The Prime Minister welcomed all collaborations that can accelerate the country's digital transformation for empowering citizens. In another tweet, the Prime Minister said that India has embraced technology to revolutionize governance and uplift service delivery. He said technology has brought efficiency and convenience to the lives of the people and also enhanced efforts to build a digitally empowered India. Russia accused Ukraine at the International Court of Justice on Thursday of destroying the Kakhovka Dam with artillery strikes. Moscow's comments came after Ukraine declared that Russia blew up the large dam at Novakakhovka. According to Ukraine's officials, the flooding has affected an area of 600 square kilometers and hundreds of thousands of people have been left without drinking water. The Ukrainian army has used drones to drop water bottles and food to some residents. 2,000 people have been evacuated from the area so far. Earlier on Tuesday, the Kakhovka Dam in southern Ukraine was ripped open after an explosion wreaking havoc and fueling fears of vast and irreparable damage to life and ecology. South Korea's foreign ministry summoned China's ambassador on Friday to protest comments he made accusing Seoul of tilting towards the United States and away from China as competition between Washington and Beijing for global influence intensifies. South Korean First Vice Foreign Minister Chang Ho-jin warned Chinese Ambassador Shin Hae-ming over his provocative remarks made during a meeting with a South Korean opposition leader. The ministry accused Shin of violating diplomatic protocols and interfering with South Korean domestic politics, but did not specify the parts of Shin's comments it saw as inappropriate. The ministry also didn't share what Shin said in reply to Chang. In a meeting on Thursday with South Korean Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung, a key rival of conservative President Yoon Suk-yeol, Shin accused Yoon's government of leaning excessively towards Seoul's treaty ally, the United States, and damaging its relations with China, its biggest trading partner. South Korea's foreign ministry said Shin's irresponsible comments countered the desire of both countries' governments and people to value and further advance South Korea-China relations based on mutual respect. The United Nations World Food Programme has said it is temporarily suspending food aid to Ethiopia because its supplies are being diverted. Earlier, United States Agency for International Development also said to stop the supplies. World Food Programme Executive Director Cindy McCain said on Friday that food diversion is absolutely unacceptable and government of Ethiopia's commitment to investigate and hold accountable those responsible is welcomed. Some 20 million Ethiopians rely on food aid because of drought and conflict out of the country's population of roughly 120 million. Much of the aid comes from USAID and the WFP. The suspensions brought fears that malnutrition could rise in Africa's second most populous country. Philippine troops, police and rescue workers began forcibly evacuating residents near Mayon volcano on Friday as a violent eruption of one of the country's most active volcanoes is possible within weeks or days. The area within a 6-kilometer radius of Mayon's crater is supposed to be off-limits due to possible volcanic emissions, lava flows, rock falls and other hazards. But many poor villagers have built houses and tended farms in Mayon's danger zone over the years. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said an evacuation of residents from the permanent danger zone was underway and promised to provide aid to the displaced until the crisis ended. Authorities had raised the alert level for the volcano in northeastern Albay province on Thursday after superheated streams of gas, debris and rocks cascaded down its upper slope, indicating activity below the surface that could precede a hazardous eruption. United States Vice President Kamala Harris has announced that her country is investing more than $100 million in the Caribbean region to crack down on weapons trafficking, help alleviate Haiti's humanitarian crisis, and support climate change initiatives. The announcement was made ahead of an official trip to the Bahamas on Thursday for a meeting of Caribbean and U.S. leaders hosted by Harris and Bahamian Prime Minister Philip Davis. Harris, who is the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit the Bahamas since it became independent 50 years ago, arrived here on a day's visit. During a meeting with leaders, Ms. Harris said that strengthening the U.S.-Caribbean relationship is a priority for her. She said U.S. strongly believes that partnership is essential to mutual security and prosperity. As part of the initiatives announced on Thursday, the U.S. Justice Department expects to appoint a coordinator to oversee cases involving illegal weapons smuggling in the Caribbean as island nations report a rise in violent crimes. Rights group Amnesty International has called on Senegalese authorities to carry out independent investigations into the deadly violence during protests last week. They say at least 23 people have died in the incident. The death toll by Amnesty is higher than the official number of 16 announced by the government. Senegal's government had earlier said it had launched an inquiry into the protest deaths. It has not responded to Amnesty's statement. Last week, deadly protests erupted after opposition leader Ousmane Sonko was sentenced to absentia in 2 years in jail for immoral behavior, but cleared of rape charges. His supporters say his charges are politically motivated. The Eurozone fell into a recession this winter as revised figures show hitting consumers by rising prices. The economy of the 20-nation bloc contracted by 0.1% between January and March, after shrinking in the final 3 months of 2022. As in other regions, the Eurozone has been hit by rising food and energy prices that have weighed on the households. Spending by households in the bloc fell by 0.3% in the first 3 months of 2023 and by 1% in the previous quarter. An opposition coalition in Guinea-Bissau has won an overall majority in parliament following elections on Sunday. With this result, President Umaro Sissoco Embalo will have to share power with a prime minister nominated by the PAI Terra-Ranca coalition, which includes former ruling PAIGC party. The coalition won 54 out of 102 seats, with Mr. Embalo's Madem G15 party taking 29 according to the Electoral Commission. A crowd gathered outside the PAIGC's headquarters in the capital, Bissau, when the results were announced, with many banging saucepans to express their joy, a news agency reported. For years, the small West African nation has undergone political turmoil and numerous coup plots. It has also been a key transit point in the trafficking of illegal drugs from Latin America. India's first all-women Hajj flight successfully took off from Kozhikode to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia on Thursday. This remarkable feat was made possible by an all-women crew of Air India Express, an international budget airline. The crew took charge of every critical operation during the flight, complementing the Hajj Committee of India's initiative to have exclusively female passengers on board. Flight IX3025 carried a total of 145 women pilgrims who were embarking on the Hajj pilgrimage. Leading the crew was Captain Kanika Mehra and First Officer Garima Pasi, skillfully piloted the aircraft throughout the flight. Accompanying them were a team of talented and dedicated cabin crew members, including Vijitha MB, Sri Lakshmi, Sushma Sharma and Shubhangi Vishwas, who ensured the passengers' comfort and safety throughout the journey. However, the involvement of women professionals from Air India Express extended beyond the aircraft itself. Behind the scenes, a group of accomplished women took charge of critical ground tasks to support the seamless operation of the flight. Ms. Sarita Salunke efficiently monitored the flight's progress from Air India Express's Operation Control Center, while Ms. Mridula Kapadia kept a close eye on the flight's trajectory. Ms. Leena Sharma and Ms. Nikita Javanjal expertly handled flight dispatch, ensuring all necessary preparations were in order. Ms. Nisha Ramachandran, the on-duty service engineer responsible for aircraft maintenance, diligently carried out her role. Lastly, Ms. Ranju R. verified and signed the load sheet, fulfilling her responsibilities as the load master. The Hajj Committee's pioneering initiative, which aims to empower women by providing them with exclusive opportunities, resonates deeply with Air India Express's core values of equality and diversity. The airline has consistently advocated for gender equality in the workplace and boasts a workforce consisting of 50% women, setting an example for the entire aviation industry. Smoke from Canadian wildfires continues to trigger air quality alerts in the United States, with health officials warning people, especially children, the elderly or those with respiratory conditions, to limit their time outdoors. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, over 100 million people in the U.S. were living under air quality alerts due to the fires on Thursday. In a statement, President Biden called it a stark reminder of climate change. Mr. Biden said that he spoke with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and that he directed the National Interagency Fire Centre to address Canada's request for additional firefighters and fire suppression tools such as air tankers to help with the raging bushfires. India finished on top of the International Shooting Sport Federation Junior World Cup with 15 medals, including 6 gold, 6 silver and 3 bronze medals at Seoul in Germany on Thursday. On the final day on Thursday, India's junior trap shooters could not make it to the medal round after finishing outside the top 6 in the qualification round. With this achievement, India have now finished on top of all the ISSF Junior World Cups and World Championships held since 2019. And in some business news, key domestic indices witnessed losses. The Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange finished near the 62,600 mark. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange closed below the 18,570 level. Both indices fell amid mixed cues from global share markets. A report.
Sensex fell by 223 points or 0.35% to finish at 62,626. Nifty also depreciated by 71 points or 0.4% to end at 18,563. Asian stock markets rose. Japan's Nikkei 225 accelerated 1.9% and South Korea's Kospi was 1.15% up. China Shanghai Composite Index surged 0.55% and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index rose 0.5%. Singapore Straits Times Index traded flat. European markets were negative in intraday trade. Oil prices rose and were broadly flat for the week as a concern over oil demand growth was balanced by Saudi output cuts. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at $76.28 a barrel. Back home, gold prices at the multi-commodity exchange for August contracts were trading at around 59,950 rupees per 10 grams. On the other hand, silver was trading at 73,990 rupees per kilogram for July contracts and reports last came in. And in the foreign exchange market, the rupee accelerated 11 paise to close at 82 rupees and 46 paise against the US dollar. Arjun Chaudhary for World News, Akashvani.
And now let's take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Financial Times reports Erdogan taps former Goldman Sachs banker to head Turkey's central bank. South China Morning Post writes, Donald Trump indicted in classified documents case in historic first for a former U.S. president. The Washington Post says a Russia-Ukraine timeline, key moments from attack on Kyiv to counter-offensive. The Globe and Mail writes, Canada sought use of European Union compound in Kabul for fingerprinting. And the Straits Times reports El Nino has arrived, promising weather turmoil across the globe. And now a quick look at the headlines once again. India and Serbia agreed to set a target of bilateral trade of 1 billion euros by the end of the decade. President Draupadi Murmu concludes her two-nation tour to Suriname and Serbia. Australia announces to introduce a national ban on Nazi symbols in the country. Former U.S. President Donald Trump indicted on federal criminal charges for retaining classified documents. Sudan's warring sides agreed to a nationwide ceasefire for 24 hours, starting early on Saturday. European Union ministers agree on a deal to overhaul the bloc's asylum procedures. And India finishes on top at the International Shooting Sport Federation Junior World Cup at Seoul in Germany. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Senegal. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.